Welcome to topic 8.2. In this video, we are going to learn how to plot points on the XY plane. Recall from the prior video, a point is a given spot on the XY plane. So points are plotted on this coordinate plane using this thing called a set of ordered pairs, which is specifically the x coordinate and then the y coordinate. This will make more sense once we get some more practice. So I'm actually going to skip these first type of examples first, and then I'm actually going to go to this one first, and then we're going to come back to these examples here, because it just makes more sense to actually do this first. So let's begin by plotting these points on this XY plane. So let's start by plotting the point 1, 2, or point A. So I encourage you to pause the video and see if you can give it a go. And this might help you too. Remember that a point is going to be the x, and then you're going to go in the y. And then also pay attention to the signs, right? So this is our x part of the coordinates, and the x part is positive, so that tells you that you're going to lie somewhere here. And then the y part is also a positive too. So I encourage you to pause the video and give that a go and try it. And assuming you have given it a go, let's go through it. So for point A, as I already mentioned, we're going to be somewhere in the vicinity when x is 1. So we're going to be somewhere along here. But we don't know our y value. Well, but because our y value is 2, we're going to start at 1, and then we're going to go up 2. And this here is going to be our point. So this here, that is point A. Looking at point B, I actually encourage you to pause the video and just plot all the rest of the points on your own now that you have looked at an example, because everything is still the same exact process. Now, assuming you have given it a go, let's work through it. So for point B, we have 0, 3. So x is going to be 0, so we're just going to stay here. But y is 3, so we're going to go up 3. So we're going to go 1, 2, 3. And this is going to be point B. Looking at point C, we have -3, which is our x. So we're going to go left 3, 1, 2, 3, -3. And then we're going to go up 4, 1, 2, 3, 4. And then the point is here. So point C is there. And then point D is -2, 0. So x is -2, so we're going to go left 2, 1, 2, but then our y is 0, so we're just going to stay here, and this is our point. And that is point D. Looking at point E, we have -5 and -5. So our x is -5, so we're going to go left, -5, and y is also negative. And look at our y terms are negative below the x-axis, so we're now going to go below the x-axis here when y equals -5 and x equals -5. So this is going to be our point. And that is point E. And then looking at point F, we have +3 and we have 3, -4. So x is +3, so we're going to go to the right 3, and y is negative, so we're going to go down -4, or down 4, I should say. So we're going to go 1, 2, 3, 4. And we're going to plot that point right there. And that is F. And last but not least, we have the point 0, 0. And if you recall from the first video, when we have the point 0, 0, that is where the two axes, the x-axis and the y-axis, intersects with each other, and that will be here, where they intersect. And this intersection, if we recall, that is the origin. And then one final thing I do want to point out, from the last video, we went over, there's this thing called quadrants. When we use this thing called quadrants to describe where we are in this XY plane. So this here is a quadrant, because you can think of it as like a box. A quadrant is another word for a box, right? So here's a quadrant, here's another quadrant, here's another quadrant, and here's another quadrant. But these quadrants have numbers. So here, this is going to be quadrant 1. And then this here is quadrant 2. And then this here is quadrant 3. And then this part here, this is quadrant 4. So all these quadrants have numbers assigned to them. And we use these to, we have this because there are certain characteristics in each quadrant. And the first thing we can notice about plotting points is that in quadrant 1, regardless of where we are, it doesn't matter where we are, our x terms are always going to be positive, and our y terms are also always going to be positive. So because of that, we can say, well, in quadrant 1, our x terms are going to be positive, and all of our y terms are going to be positive. And then if we look at quadrant 2, you may notice that all of our x terms are always going to be negative, but we're the y-axis is still above this x-axis here, so all of our y terms are always going to be positive. So we can say, let me write here. So our x terms, like I said, they're always going to be negative, but then our y terms are always going to be positive. And then looking at quadrant 3 down here, all of our x terms are going to be negative. Oops, don't want to use green for that one. So all of our x terms are going to be negative, and all of our y terms are also going to be negative. And then last but not least, looking at quadrant 4, all of our x terms are going to be positive, but our y terms are all negative. So we're going to have the general point of positive x and negative y. Now, and if you look at the points we plotted, this all makes sense, because point A, x is positive, y is positive. Looking at quadrant 2, let's look at C. Let's look at point C. We have a negative 3, which is x. So when we have a negative x, and then a positive y. And looking at quadrant 3, we have a negative 5 and a negative 5 for point E, and both our terms are negative. And then looking at point F, we have a positive x and negative y. So this all makes sense. So now going back up to this first part, we are going to take all that information and determine if the following points lie in a quadrant or an axis. And if they do lie in the axis, we have to state whether or not they lie in the x-axis or the y-axis. So I encourage you to pause the video and work through all of these on your own. Now let's work through them together. So the point 1, 2, our x terms are positive and our y terms are positive. So that must mean we are in quadrant 1. And then looking at example 2, we have 0, 3. So 0, 3, X is 0, so we aren't going anywhere at our X axis, but Y is 3, so we're going up 3. So we're only going up 3, and we're not actually moving anywhere on the X axis, so this point actually lies on the Y axis. And then the point -3, 4, for this one, we are going to be going left -3 and up 4, so we are going to be in quadrant 2. And then looking at number 4, our X is -2, so we're going to go left 2, and our Y is 0, so we're not going off that X-axis, we're not going up or down off the X-axis, so we're still lying in the X-axis, so therefore that point lies on the X-axis. And then looking at 5, we have -5, -5, and because our X is negative and our Y is also negative, we are going to be in this third quadrant here. So we're going to be quadrant 3. Looking at example 6, we have 3, -4. So we're going to go right 3 and down -4, which that'll put us in quadrant 4. And last but not least, 7, we have the point 0, 0. So this is the origin, like I said, and we can say that the origin is a special point, and it doesn't lie in one singular axis. So we can just say that it is the intersection of both the X and Y axes. Here, let me write it like this. Axes. Now remember, axes is the plural word for axis. And there you have it. That is section 8.2.